I'm waiting for Bert to realize that I got $500 worth of donations yesterday and melt the fuck down. Bort believes in adrenochrome. At least. He's so close to figuring it out too. Like he's like, I can't figure out why they gave Maxwell's the only one in prison and she got to dye her hair and she gets a therapy puppy and they are not prosecuting any of the men. I just don't know what's going on. Yeah, Trump's one of them, you dumb fuck. I think I only get 70% of the donations, but still. He's always talked about adrenochrome, yeah.
The power of Christ compels you to give little Bert a little kiss.
So he knows Alberta, but he doesn't know British Columbia, the Yukon, or the Northwest Territory. Didn't think so. All right, I gotta close this. I'm not paying attention. Stop the music. Chill. Fire up. What do we got to do over here? Facebook. We got to do Facebook. 2 sock living today. At least. Maybe better than that. Who knows? I had to see, buy some socks. Keep both my feet covered. Let's see. Refresh. I hate how fucking... The latency on Facebook is ridiculous, dude. From when you hit start stream to when the video actually shows up. It takes, oh, there it is. It takes so freaking long. All right, there's that. Change accounts. It's wild. I saw Pearl Mania talking about it. Like, in the U.S., Pam Bondi's like, we can't prosecute everybody because it'd bring down the whole system. In the U.K., the fucking king's like, yeah, go get my brother. He's a piece of shit. Like, what is going on there, dude? That's pretty fucking wild. We can't prosecute anybody because it'd bring down the system. But in the UK, they're like, fuck it. Royalty doesn't matter. Prosecuted. Oh, let's roll the intro.
Hey Daddies, it's me, the Linda Binda from TikTok. I wanted to make this video because
Extra
I
large
wanted to
socks.
thank you for watching Cold Beer Confessionals with Will Bird. I think that's just incredible. I've watched a few episodes and I'm just like very intrigued. But you know what I'm most intrigued in is Big Daddy's meat stick. I heard that it's very thick, like a good old German sausage. You know, Linda and her coochie loves that. Oh, never mind. Let's not go there. Anyways, I hope you have a good show and enjoy it as you can. There's a lot of weird things that go on, especially when it comes from the realm of Linda Bindaland. So, enjoy the show. Thanks for watching. Peace out.
Welcome, everybody. I am Will Bird, and this is Cold Beer Confessional. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here. Welcome. What's up, guys? I see that argument about Prince Andrew, and I think everybody would love to see Andrew go down for the shit he did with females, right? But to be fair, with what's been released, there's just like, there's enough information to know that he did fucked up shit, but I don't think there's enough information to get convictions on Prince Andrew. What they can get convictions on, though, is the fact that he was releasing state secrets to Jeffrey Epstein, so Jeffrey Epstein could make better business decisions, basically. We all know that Prince Andrew was fucking kids. He had the stupidest story to begin with. The fact that he's like, that can't be a picture of me. I haven't been able to sweat since 2010. And people are like, what? The fuck? You can't sweat? That's the way you're getting out of this? But anyways, it's definitely him. He was definitely fucking girls. I just don't think there's enough evidence to get a conviction. But what they have released out of the Epstein files is enough to get a conviction, which they should pursue on releasing state secrets. They also had, have you guys seen this? This is crazy. So this is Les Wexner and his attorney when he was testifying. Listen, let me get some audio for you.
Words, okay. Answer not the question. 5 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 words, okay.
He says, I will fucking kill you if you answer another question with more than 5 words. Big Daddy Meat Stick is my nickname. That's me, Big Daddy Meat Stick. Thank you, though. Anyways, he tells him, if you answer another question with more than 5 words, I will fucking kill you. And this guy almost looks like he's out of it. He's just like smiling and nodding.
Fucking kill you. Answer another question. 5 words, okay? Fucking kill you. Answer another question.
Which, to be fair, his lawyer's probably not doing anything wrong. His lawyer's job is to protect his client. And you don't want to just ramble on. And when you get in your old age, you do fucking ramble. But goddamn, it's wild that the microphones picked that up. That does not look good. I don't know what the fuck they were asking him or what he answered, but that doesn't look good. Anytime you're facing anybody and you have to have a lawyer present, it's probably best to say as little as possible. Yes, no, don't elaborate, don't go into stories, don't give details unless you're forced to give details. But fuck him, right? He's the one who funded all this for Epstein. Trying to think what else. We didn't have any more Ryan Upchurch stuff to cover right out of the bat. The Gotcha Man video was really good on Ryan Upchurch. So let's go over here. Trump is not beating the he fucks dudes too claim. He's not getting away from this one. Just watch.
But I was very proud of it. President Pena of Paraguay is here. President, thank you very much. Young, handsome guy. It's always nice to be young and handsome. Doesn't mean we have to like you. I don't like young, handsome men. Women, I like. Men know how to have any interest. Good. That's right. Thank you very much. You're doing a great job, too. But
What the
I was very proud of it.
He's a young, handsome man. It's okay to be young and handsome and a man. We don't have to like you. I don't like you. I don't like young, handsome men. Women, yeah, not men. Clearly not men. What the fuck?
But I was very proud of it. President Pena
This is at his Board of Peace bullshit he put together and made himself the head of for life.
of Paraguay is here. President, thank you very much. Young, handsome guy. It's always nice to be young and handsome. Doesn't mean we have to like you. I don't like young, handsome men. Women, I like. Men know how to have any interest.
And he could have played it off as not even a sexual thing. He could have been like, oh, young, handsome man doesn't mean we have to like you. Maybe we disagree politically. You know what I mean? But he immediately went to like, I don't want to fuck you. I don't.
Thank you very much. Young, handsome guy. It's always nice to be young and handsome. Doesn't mean we have to like you. I don't like young, handsome men. Women, I like. Men know how to have any interest. Good. That's right. Thank you very much. You're doing a great job, too. But I was very proud of it.
Also, I wonder if Courier got it. J.D. Vance tried to make a joke. I don't know if they got it. Hold on. Let's do this. I don't have the link for it. It was at the Board of Peace bullshit. He tries to make a joke about AOC. Is this it?
Thank you, Mr. President, very much for your leadership,
Yes.
but also for the kind words about me personally. I knew exactly what I wanted to say, but then after the president said that I was so smart and that I didn't want to repeat our congresswoman who froze for 20 seconds over in Munich, now I'm tempted, sir, just to freeze for 20 seconds and just stare at the cameras, and maybe they'll say nice things about me like they do about Congresswoman Cortez.
Not a single laugh from this joke. Not even a smile. Even Trump didn't laugh.
Thank you, Mr. President, very much for your leadership, but also for the kind words about me personally. I knew exactly what I wanted to say, but then after the president said that I was so smart and that I didn't want to repeat our...
So I knew what I was going to say, but then the president said I was smart. So then I didn't want to freeze up like AOC did in Munich. But now I'm thinking about freezing up so the press will say nice things about me.
Congresswoman who froze for 20 seconds over in Munich. Now I'm tempted, sir, just to freeze for 20 seconds and just stare at the cameras, and maybe they'll say nice things about me like they do about Congresswoman Cortez.
And they have officially lost Nick Fuentes. I know lots of people don't care about Nick Fuentes, but he does lead a group of people. However large that group of people is, it's debatable. But he does lead a young and impressionable group of people, and they've officially driven Nick out of the party.
Do not vote in the midterms. The Republicans have to lose. They have to lose. They have to crash and burn. A cleansing fire is the only thing that will save us. It cannot be fixed. Fuck them. Fuck Trump. Fuck MAGA. Fuck all this stuff. It can't be fixed. If it could have been fixed, it would have been fixed in 2025, but it wasn't. They made every mistake. Liberation Day, disaster. Doge, disaster. Big Beautiful Bill, disaster. Epstein files, disaster. Iran, disaster. The personnel, Mike Waltz, disaster. Ratcliffe, disaster. Rubio, disaster. Pam Bondi, disaster. All self-inflicted. Trump personnel, Trump policy, Trump strategy, Trump playbook. We tried it your way. It didn't work. Fuck you. Now we don't vote. That's the message. Seriously. Can't blame anybody else. Bad advice, bad advisors, Biden's economy. Enough already. It didn't work. We're not voting.
It takes a lot to lose Nick Fuentes, right? And he's not even like, we need a different fucking Republican Party. He's like, burn it to the ground. It's over. We'll start again.
Staying home, and you know what? I hope the Democrats impeach him. I hope the Democrats impeach all of them. I hope they indict everybody. I hope they depose and compel the release of documents, and I hope they find all the criminal behavior, and I hope it destroys the GOP. I hope it creates a crisis for the GOP so severe that they never recover. Do not vote in the midterm.
That's fucking insane, dude. Like, he wants an impeachment. He wants the compel and release documents and testimony and fucking take down the whole Republican Party. That's pretty big coming. And like, we have people like Sean Ryan jumping off ship. We have people jumping off ship that should have jumped off ship a long time ago, but at least they're finally jumping, right? It's better than not jumping at all, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say. He leaves no room for error. That's exactly right. He comes in strong. All right. New artist spotlight. We've been doing this lately. You know, I like to find new artists and talent, spotlight them on the show in case you guys are looking for new people to listen to. We've had a couple of good ones, but I don't think we've had any as good as this. This is Brenda K. Brenda K.
Like others before me, I've learned no pain, no gain. Falling's a step to becoming a household name. I wanna fail like Disney and KFC. Write a song that'll never make it like Bohemian Rhapsody. I wanna go up in history. I want my I wanna fail big. I wanna fail big. Like others before.
Oh, you want to hear it again? Yeah, I figured.
I've learned no pain, no gain. Falling's a step to becoming a household name. I wanna fail like
I've got her whole album.
Disney and KFC. Write a song that'll never make it like Bohemian Rhapsody. I wanna go up in history. I want my name headlining gigs. I wanna fail big. I wanna fail big. Like others.
And you think that this is just probably like a one-off, like she made a joke or something? Nope. This is Brenda K music. This is all she does. Literally all she does.
I remember
when she goes down. You're talking about your daughter, and one of the lines is when she goes down.
With that girl, it's always do or die trying.
That sounds like that could be a real country music song if someone else sang it.
Now I look at my ex and wonder why I thought he was the one. I couldn't get enough. I used to think without him I'd die. Now I look at my ex and wonder why. Now I survived.
Oh, a bartender anthem.
Years, but it feels like more. The things I've seen, oh, I could tell some stories. People in here aren't in the best frame of mind. They're
Are you in prison?
down and out, 'cause they've been doing hard time. This ain't what I planned, always thought I'd go far. But here I am living life behind bars. Mixing drinks, pouring them out, listening while
And she's very bad at pool.
down. Healing hearts and broken souls, trading those tips for another dose. I don't judge their scars, 'cause we're all here, living life behind bars.
I get it. It's a play on words.
My guy's the old-fashioned kind. He still holds my door when we go out, but he doesn't mind staying in on Friday and getting cuddled up on the couch. We don't need to say too much. Sometimes it's baby, what's for lunch? He's the one I want to talk about nothing with all night long. Don't matter where we are as long as I'm with him. It feels so strong when we turn out the lights and kiss. He's the one I want to talk about nothing with. When I need a good excuse to strawberry swirl at 1 a.m., a glass of wine or two, I remind myself how smart I am. A reason to crush on some guy, fill his pretty head full of lies. I can bend the truth as far as it takes to justify my favorite mistakes. But when I need a reason,
I know.
I don't have to dig deep, pain's easy to reach on the surface all the time. When I wanna hurt, you had me buzzing, yeah, you're like those shots of Jack. Smooth Tennessee fire, but that taste will never last.
Was she fucking touring?
Without the copper tone, hot and fun, but boy, now that you're gone, there's nothing left but the burn. Oh, this hurts, nothing works. My memory's a blur, there's nothing left but the burn.
Nothing left but the burn.
You had me but like others before me. I've learned no pain, no gain.
I think that's what she is singing about.
A step to becoming a household name.
Like syphilis.
Patriots be like, I want to fail like Disney and KFC. Write a song that'll never make it like Bohemian Rhapsody.
Wait a second. A song that'll never make it, like Bohemian Rhapsody, the most recognized song in the world.
Wanna go up in history. I want my name headlining gigs. I wanna fail.
Rita Big Thumbs. Yeah.
Wanna fail big.
What happened to that guy who sang like the cleanest love song ever? You guys know who I'm talking about? He sang a song about getting a milkshake or something. Hold on. What was that guy's name, dude? That's not gonna bring it up. It was like it had like the weirdest fucking like Christian spin on it. Damn, I think I subscribed to him. He was always like walking around talking about. I can't even remember the lyrics. It was just like, it was like the most homeschool song in the world. We played it on the show and listened to it. And I can't remember what the fuck his name was or what he even sang about. I can't even remember the lyrics. And he did like an update, and I even did an update to his latest video. And he was trying to get people to save it on Spotify. Damn, what was his fucking... I have to look it up later. I don't remember. Damn, I can't think of it. Anyways, through various efforts and pressure from different organizations, they have released some of the... So ICE did a big thing here in Tennessee that was partnered with the Highway Patrol. And what it seemed like from the outside looking in was that Highway Patrol was finding reasons to pull people over in typically Hispanic areas of Tennessee. Then when they pull them over, if you were white, you got a warning, no matter what. Like they had one guy pulled over for like 18 or 19 miles over the speed limit, but he was white, so they let him go with a warning. And if you were brown, they tried to ID you. They asked you repeatedly what country you were born in, and they called in ICE. But it was hard to prove what they were actually doing because they didn't want to release the body cam footage. Well, we got the body cam footage. This happened last month, I think.
You've seen ICE operations around the country.
I'm just a little nervous.
That's all right.
I would have been pulled over before.
Yeah.
Well, this is what it looked like in Nashville.
We're gonna have to come in and get you, okay? We don't want to do that.
Now!
This was an investigation that lasted several months. You know, we partnered with the Nashville Banner, Nashville Noticias, Lighthouse Reports, Mother Jones. It took months and even a lawsuit filed by the Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition for us to get access to more than 50 hours of footage from the Tennessee Highway Patrol and ICE operation last May. They drove up and down Nolensville Pike, one of the most diverse and predominantly Hispanic communities in Nashville, looking for anyone who may be in the country illegally. That alone raised questions on if this operation was all about racial profiling.
100%.
We had a chance to see the video for ourselves.
Evening, folks.
My brake light.
Yes, ma'am.
I have an appointment.
Now, if you were white or spoke English clearly, some of these traffic stops lasted no more than about 2 minutes. Sometimes these troopers didn't even bother running the driver's license. If the driver appeared to be a minority and spoke broken English, well then troopers repeatedly asked these drivers where they were born before ICE got involved.
Born here.
Another thing they did was they ID'd passengers a lot. And a passenger's not required to ID, but if they didn't ID, they used that as pretext to call ICE and say they were refusing ID.
Born here?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But they didn't just ask the drivers to identify themselves.
What about you, ma'am? Do you have any ID card, driver's license? Nothing like that?
Does he have one? And do you have one?
These people are in the back fucking seat.
An ID? What's your social?
Troopers almost always ask the passengers to
No ICE in my town, yeah.
provide some sort of ID, a passport, driver's license, or something to prove that they too are in the country legally. Now, to be clear, the driver in these traffic stops is the only one who's usually obligated to present an ID, unless there's reason to believe that the passenger also committed a crime. And these troopers even admitted that.
Not required to.
No passengers required.
He's not required to. No passengers required to. These are just troopers talking in their car.
Still, they almost always detained anyone who either kept quiet, didn't show an ID, or showed an ID from a different country.
Reasonable suspicion. He's not answering my questions and he didn't ask an ID.
Reasonable suspicion is the reason they arrested this guy. He's not answering my questions and won't give us ID. That's not reasonable suspicion for anybody. You can't make an arrest on that.
I showed these videos to immigration attorney Alan King, who said that he almost couldn't believe what he was seeing.
We are no longer saying, innocent until proven guilty. We're saying guilty until proven innocent. It seems to me that the people that they're assuming to be guilty, all look a certain way.
We saw people pulled over for driving 18 miles over the speed limit.
68 and a 40.
And they were given warnings. Meanwhile, the people who were pulled over for things like driving
That was 58 and a 40. That's the 18 over with a warning.
with their high beams on, they were taken away in handcuffs. Even
Driving with your high beams on and you were brown and spoke broken English, detained for ICE.
they were taken away in handcuffs, even though they showed troopers their asylum documents. At best, it could be seen as a double standard. At worst, King says this is racial profiling that demands
1,000%. 1,000%. They were just detaining people who they didn't believe were U.S. citizens based on the way they spoke and based on the way they look, which is fucking insane.
You've seen ICE operations around.
Oh, this is the same video, maybe just laid out in
Pike, one of the most.
That one's just laid out in vertical format, it looks like.
We are doing it the legal way. It doesn't matter. They don't care. They don't respect it.
I miss my dad. News Channel 5 has verified reports that there have been ICE activity in South Nashville as early as Tuesday morning. One man, Juan Martin Espíndola Ramirez, was detained on his way to work around 10 in the morning. His wife, a U.S. citizen, Juana Bautista, was on the phone when that moment happened.
I love you. I love you. I love you. Bye.
The couple tells us that Juan tried showing agents his real ID driver's license and his work permit, but that the agents wouldn't accept it.
I heard him. He's like, here's my driver's license. And the officer was like, no, that's not going to cut it. So he got his work permit out of his wallet and he showed it to him. And I heard the officer say, that ain't.
Video shared shows the moment that agents then break his windows and try to get him out of the vehicle. That's when Juan starts running. Through a video call detained from Putnam County, I asked.
But they'll keep saying, just do it the right way. Well, work permit is the right way.
Juan why he ran in Spanish, and he said he ran out of fear. Fear because ICE agents had broken his window and had started to hit him. Juan came to the U.S. when he was 17 years old 10 years ago. About a year later, he says that someone tried to kill him at his work, and that's how he was able to qualify for a U visa. A U visa is given to victims of crime who help law enforcement prosecute crimes and criminals. Then he says through lawyers at Osman Law, he was able to apply for his green card, getting his Social Security and work permits. The process took 6 years, and he didn't get those until 3 years ago.
He's not a criminal. He was here legally. He's on a work visa. He has his social. He had his real ID.
We reviewed public court records from Davidson County that show Juan doesn't have a criminal record. After the detainment,
usually what they're doing is, even if you have some type of paperwork or asylum or seeking citizenship, they'll look back in your past and 10 years ago you got simple possession or some shit, and they'll say, oh, that invalidates it now. Well, that'll be denied anyways. So they snatch them up and then take them to court to speed up the process, they claim. It doesn't do any of that, but they're using past crimes. If this guy has no fucking past history, I don't know why they did this.
The pair says that the agents mocked Juan for being from Guatemala, though he's from Mexico, and made jokes at his expense. Juana and Juan have been together since 2019, and they just welcomed a baby boy barely 2 weeks ago. She says she arrived on the scene when ICE agents were detaining Juan, and she tried to say bye to him. She tried to get him to see his baby, but they were not allowed, and that the agent told her to step back or that she would be taken into custody as well. Now, Juana and his 8-year-old stepson and his 2-year-old boy are just praying and hoping that he is let go. And she says she is confused as to why he was detained, because he had some type of legal status in the U.S. I have
going after the worst of the worst on their way to work.
Out to ICE to ask about the specific arrest, but I haven't heard back. On Tuesday, I did speak to an ICE supervisor who told me they were making targeted arrests in Middle Tennessee and around the country, just as they usually do, looking for those that are in the country illegally and have committed serious crimes.
We are doing it.
You've committed serious crimes.
A mask, and they're pointing the gun.
Oh, have you guys heard about this? A Middle Tennessee, let me see if I can explain this right. I think a Middle Tennessee university professor lost her fucking mind. That's the only thing that I could think of. I'm going to let him tell you the story. but I'm going to try to tell it from what I've heard online. So this woman, who is a university professor at Middle Tennessee University, she's been having some issues with an ex-boyfriend. She files to get a restraining order against her ex-boyfriend, but she never shows up to court to finalize it. Weird, I know. Then she disappears for a day or two, and no one's seen her. Well, another random guy who is not her ex-boyfriend, just a random fucking person, is driving down a back road, okay? Like a two-lane highway. He's driving down this road in the middle of the night, and he sees someone standing in the middle of the road wearing a fucking Halloween mask and pointing a gun at him while he's driving. So he like fucking locks up the car, right? And the person's wearing a Halloween mask and pointing a gun at the car. There's nowhere for him to go, so he just kind of sits there for a minute. Well, the guy in the car, who has no relation to this university professor at all that I can find, also has a gun. So when the person with the mask and the gun who stopped him in the middle of the road comes walking to him, he fucking unloads. That's the university professor. And no one can explain why. Why a university professor was wearing a Halloween mask in the middle of the fucking road with a gun trying to stop traffic. How fucking, like, the only thing I could think is this person fucking snapped, like had a mental fucking breakdown. I have no fucking idea how to explain this. Let's see what he says, because I've not watched his coverage of it. I've just heard the story on social media because I live in Tennessee.
They're wearing a mask and they're pointing the gun at his car. It's crazy, the twists and turns that are happening in the investigation into the shooting death of Ashley McKenzie. That was 3 months ago. She was an MTSU professor. She was found shot twice in the middle of the Smithville Highway in the middle of the night back in December. What I have heard is that this guy was driving home in the middle of the night, okay? It's dark on Smithville Highway, and all of a sudden, in the middle of the road, he sees an individual. He can't tell if it's a male or female because they're wearing a mask, and they're pointing the gun.
And it's also December, so they probably got a coat and shit on.
His car. He comes to a stop. There's not a way to drive around without maybe worrying that she's going to shoot him. She starts walking toward the car with the gun, and he shoots. She never fires, but he shoots as she's approaching. He shoots, and I understand hits her twice, killing her. Had called 911 from the scene. Law enforcement arrived. He had his gun on the top of his car, cooperated, and said he shot her. I understand there's dash cam video of what happened. None of it's been released. No charges have been filed against that individual. Okay, we know that before all this happened, McKenzie had sought an order of protection against an ex-boyfriend, but failed ever to show up in court to get it officially started. So we don't know why that was, but we know the young man who shot her that night was not her boyfriend. They were complete and total strangers. They're waiting for toxicology to come back, but I understand the criminal report is done. And the question...
Yeah, so she's a 40 or a 45, somewhere around there, year-old, associate professor of sociology. I think they said sociology. What the fuck? How does she end up in the road wearing a Halloween mask in December, pointing a gun at traffic?
And is, if indeed that's the case, what was Ashley McKenzie doing out in the road in a Halloween mask with a gun in the middle of the night? And hopefully we'll learn that soon. They're wearing a mask.
That's crazy, right? That's all fucking crazy. I don't know. Other than she just lost her fucking mind, right? It would be one thing if, like, this guy had a connection to her and maybe, I don't even know how was she so paranoid that she thought that was her ex-boyfriend, but why the Halloween mask? Because she tried to get a restraining order against the ex-boyfriend, but then she didn't show up to court. So that you could use that to say, like, she was too afraid that he would show up, right? And having to face him and something might happen. But why the Halloween mask?
Is there a new ICE detention center coming to Lebanon, Tennessee, or not?
I feel much safer with...
Let me tell you how ICE is buying new detention facilities, and they're wildly overpaying for them. So the one that they just bought in, I can't remember the state. It doesn't matter. The one that they just bought in one of the states, we'll look it up in a second. They paid, the guy that bought it is a Russian-born U.S. citizen who bought this warehouse 2 years ago. 2 years ago, he bought a warehouse for millions of dollars. ICE paid him an extra $95 million without a bid, without shopping around, and they did it in 4 days. They closed this, a federal purchase of commercial real estate was closed in 4 days, and he made $90-some million on his property. Like, that sounds shady as fuck, right?
Undocumented immigrants than I ever will with ICE agents.
After days of speculation, we're finally getting a little bit of clarity. A U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement supervisor tells me that the agency has not purchased a facility in Wilson County, and the first email to media confirming these plans was, quote, made without proper approval. The confirmation comes as we continue seeing ICE activity in Middle Tennessee. This video was just taken on Tuesday morning. The confusion began after...
Okay. Trump's DHS just bought an ICE detention warehouse for $128 million that the owner, the Russian guy, paid $29 million for 2 years ago. How do you get from $29 million to $128 million for a warehouse, for an empty building?
From several media outlets saying that ICE had confirmed they had secured a site in Lebanon, Tennessee to be used as a detention center for undocumented immigrants.
That's the one in Georgia.
Republican state officials then took to social media saying that they didn't have any proof this was actually happening. Local leaders told us that Wilson County doesn't even have the infrastructure to support sewage from a facility this big. The news sparked hundreds of neighbors to show up to the Wilson County Commissioners meeting on Tuesday night. It was so packed that people were waiting outside, down the stairs, and even on the first floor. As the meeting began, the mayor even acknowledged that they themselves as officials didn't even know if this was actually happening or not.
Just a while ago, I was told that, yes, they're coming. And then I was told Senator Mark Fody that they said they retracted everything and they wasn't coming. And he sent me an email of that.
Still, neighbors made their voices heard opposing a detention facility in their community.
I feel much safer with undocumented.
Trump's DHS just bought an ICE detention warehouse for $128 million that sold for $29 million 2 years ago from a Russian-based real estate company. Nothing to see here, folks. We're being looted so hard by the crooks. ICE bought a 1.2 million square foot warehouse in Social Circle, Georgia from PKN S1 LLC, tied to Moscow-based P&K Group, P&K, for $128.5 million. That last sold in 2023 for $29 million. It's part of the $38 billion DHS plan for 16 detention centers amid deportation goals. Like, that's pretty crazy, right? Anybody can make $100 million on an investment in 2 years. Who wouldn't do that?
Immigrants than I ever will with ICE agents. They are not welcome in my community. As ICE detention center would be
start free. If Dems get control, they start freezing fucking things that are going on, and then it'll take years to unravel the investigation. Probably.
staying on Wilson County.
There was at least one person offering a different perspective before he was booed off.
So I want to be the one to say all lives matter. American, if you're from here, if you're not from here. Nah, let me speak.
All lives
now
matter.
I can share that ICE officials have retracted their initial statements, and they have said that there is not a planned facility for Middle Tennessee. But they say
there's nothing wrong with the idea that all lives matter. That is true. But the reason that Black Lives Matters exists because we were treating it like Black lives didn't matter.
Shouldn't come as a surprise that they are actively making arrests across the country.
It's not Black Lives Matter more. It's Black Lives Matter the same amount as everybody else.
And planning to expand their detention space. Is there a new ICE detention center?
Sorry, I'm just catching up on the news right now. J. Cole surprises Tennessee State University. Dude, this guy this guy fucking with these turkeys had me rolling laughing, dude. There's like some wild turkeys that have taken over a neighborhood, and this guy's got to like, this UPS guy's got to trick them and run past them. Look at him. They're after his ass.
All right. No, I gotta get back.
Look at. They won't get on the truck, but anytime he's out of the truck, they're after his ass.
I'm 40 years old. I can't deal with this. God damn it. One more.
Watch him go. He has to try to dodge them.
Yo, yeah, you're telling me I've been chasing him for 5 minutes. What do y'all want?
He has to put the juke on him. Look. It was a pretty funny video.
In 2025, Tennessee law enforcement agencies reported more than 11,000 crimes involving people they believe are not legally in the U.S. With the biggest population, Davidson County topped the list with nearly 2,500 cases. Sumner County reported 540 cases. That's more than double Shelby County's cases, despite Memphis being 4 times larger. When you adjust for population, Robertson County actually had the highest rate of reported cases, followed by Murray, Macon, and then Davidson. Statewide, about 8 out of 10 cases involve nonviolent offenses, most commonly traffic and driving-related charges, such as driving without a license. Then about 1 out of 10 were violent crimes, including homicides and assaults. And what happens when we compare these numbers to the overall crime in the volunteer state? Well, FBI and state crime data says that Tennessee sees more than 500,000 crimes in a year. That means that criminal cases involving undocumented immigrants, according to the 2025 report, make up roughly 2% of all reported crime in the state. Republican lawmakers say this report highlights the need for tougher immigration laws.
2% of all of our crime, and we're
on that type of legislation with White House official Stephen Miller, including mandating local law enforcement to work with federal agencies. Advocates, on the other hand, say that these charges are minor and warn against using this report to stereotype entire communities. Whether you see these numbers as a public safety warning or a small slice of Tennessee's crime depends on your perspective. What's clear is that these numbers will likely remain in the middle of the state's immigration debate. In 2025,
not doing anything to change the 98% of our crime, but the 2%, we need to tighten up on that shit. Fucking goddamn, dude. Tennessee has agreed to be this, like, what do they call it? Like a sample state, like implementing ICE's new fucking policies, and we're going to be like the first state to do it, blah, 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 some stupid shit.
As a Latina and as a huge... The slate of hate. That's what the Tennessee Equality Project is calling these 10 pieces of legislation that have been filed at the state capitol here in Tennessee that they consider to be discriminatory against the gay community.
When legislation tries to erase people, silence is not an option.
Now, there are a lot of different bills to get into, but 2 specific ones deal...
Tennessee fucking sucks, really. I mean, like, if you've got any kind of progressive ideology, Tennessee sucks.
With schools. One would not require a teacher to use the preferred honorific, say Mr., Mrs., or Ms., if a student happens to be transgender.
In other words, it's fine to tell a trans man who is a principal, I'm sorry, I'm going to call you Ms.
Another would not allow a teacher to wear any type of pride pin or flag at their desk. Other bills on their radar, a bill that wouldn't take a child away from their parents' custody if they refuse to affirm their child's transgender identity. Another would allow private individuals and businesses to not recognize same-sex marriages.
Well, that's debatable whether it does right now or not. I mean, there are already wedding venues turning away same-sex couples as it is.
Several bills deal with health care, like one that would block TennCare from providing gender-affirming care, the ability for people to sue healthcare providers that coerce someone into youth gender-affirming care, and a bill that prevents doctors from asking certain questions about gender identity without parental approval. Tennessee Equality Project plans to fight against all of those bills.
We will pack hearing room.
$10,000 vape shops theft. Oh, THC products. Yeah, they'll never find that dude unless somebody reports him. Everything's covered. Damn, $10,000 is a lot of money. Holy shit. All right, back to the missing files, I guess. Enough local news.
We have some major breaking news. We just learned that Donald Trump's Department of Justice removed 3 interviews from the Epstein files with a victim who accused Donald Trump of assault. This is according to journalist Roger Sollenberger, who on Sunday also reported that the FBI interviewed this victim who accused Donald Trump of
and found them credible. They apparently interviewed him 3 or 4 times.
And they found her to be credible, and that some of the DOJ's files for this woman appear to be missing from the government's database. However, he says, I have now found DOJ records showing that the FBI did not just interview this woman once. The FBI interviewed this woman at least 4 times. But the DOJ's files associated with those records, which was a document cataloging information that the government provided to the counsel for Ghislaine Maxwell during her trial, has apparently been removed. He also talks about how if you look up her case number 3501.045 in the Epstein files, a lot of those files are missing. This woman also received a settlement from the Epstein estate, and you don't receive settlements without having evidence of a crime. So this woman, who was a girl at the time between 13 and 15 years old, accused Donald Trump of assault. The FBI interviewed her 4 times. They deemed her credible, and now 3 of the 4 interviews are missing from the Epstein files. This cover-up just got even worse. We have some major breaking news. We just learned that Donald Trump.
So it seems like they're just hiding that shit, right? Like, this person received a settlement, so clearly they had something. They received a settlement from the Epstein, so clearly they had something, and they also made claims against Trump. And now documents are just disappearing. And the FBI not only considered them credible, but interviewed them multiple times. And these witness statements are just not available, and other things are now disappearing. Here is an article about the conservative Georgia town pushes back against ICE detention. It says, on a recent morning, Eric Taylor, city manager for a small Georgia town of
ninja.
Oh shit! Is dedicated to stop feeding to trolls. Bort voicemail guy. Add this to the tally. The voicemail guy is funny. Thank you very much for the donation. I appreciate it. On a recent morning, Eric Taylor, city manager of a small town of Georgia, about 5,000 residents, called Social Circle, was contacted by a staffer from ICE. They asked me to turn on the water, he said, of a 1 million square foot warehouse nearby that the federal government recently purchased for $128 million, with plans to use it for locking up as many 10,000 detainees as part of Trump's administration's mass deportation plan. I told them I'm not going to do it, Taylor said, not until they come and talk to me. The local official, together with the town's mayor and police chief, have all publicly opposed the Department of Homeland Security's plans to open what could become one of the largest immigration detention centers in the U.S. in a rural town with 19th century buildings downtown and horse and cattle farms and hay for sale in the outskirts. It's a town. It'd be like they bought it in my town. It's a tiny town. ICE's warehouse purchase in Social Circle is one of several dozen across the U.S. in recent weeks in a handful of locations such as Ashland, Virginia, Kansas City, Missouri. Local opposition appears to have thwarted such plans. In the case of Social Circle, officials and residents alike only learned of the Trump administration's plan to buy the empty warehouse from a 24 December Washington Post report, and since then have been clamoring for the federal government's attention to no avail. Taylor contacted John Ossoff, a Democratic senator who has opposed ICE's plan for the town, and Mike Collins, a Republican congressman, who has told Taylor that the federal government will be in touch. Neither Ossoff or Collins responded to queries from The Guardian. Taylor's concerns include loss of property tax revenue and insufficient water, sewage, police, ambulance, and hospital infrastructure in a town that could triple in population. The city manager said the town's sewage system dates back to 1962 and was built to handle 66,000 gallons a day and was already maxed out. Social Circle had taken out a $65 million bond to fix the system before ICE's plan had materialized, he said. With thousands of detainees at the edge of town, you'll have poop on the ground over there. Okay. The town's water system is also stretched, Taylor added. State permits allow Social Circle to draw 1 million gallons a day from nearby Alcovy River, and its residents had come close to that figure just last summer. Not only that, the federal government pays no taxes on its properties. Former warehouse owner P&K Group paid about $300,000 in taxes last year, he said. Despite these and other concerns, as of Thursday morning, not a single ICE or Homeland Security official had contacted Taylor or anyone else in the local government to talk about such details, even as plans appear to be moving forward to transform the warehouse into a prison. It's frustrating, the city manager said. Town officials announced ICE's $128 million purchase 8 February on Social Circle's Facebook page. The price paid was nearly 5 times the property's assessed value of $29 million last year. The Facebook post had nearly 1,000 comments up Friday, more than any in recent history, said John Miller, a local business owner. Meanwhile, despite being located in a county where 75% voted for Donald Trump, a coalition of strange bedfellows appears to be as steadfast as Taylor, who, for now, at least controlled the water at the warehouse. This is a close, tight-knit community, Taylor said. I can tell you there is unity around this issue. Residents who spoke to The Guardian downtown were informed and concerned. I would rather not have it here, said Harriet Nunnally, a retired dental hygienist who lived in Social Circle since 1988 and was out walking her dog. I don't see any pluses. Nobody wants a prison in their backyard. But it has nothing to do with the immigrants, right? They just don't want it there. Becca Moore, a 30-year-old interior designer who works at downtown Social Circle and lives nearby in Covington, said the warehouse plans were awful. She called herself a blue dot in a red area and was concerned about reports elsewhere of members of Congress being stymied in attempts to visit detention centers, as well as conditions for the detainees. Nearby in a coffee shop, half a dozen middle school students had been following the issue. Chelsea Gordon, 13, said ICE's plans were horrible, adding, I feel like people wouldn't want to live here with the detention center in town. I don't know how they found it in our little town, she added, referring to the vacant warehouse. We all know. Dania Lachlan, 14, mentioned that she had friends from other countries. I would hate to see them go, she said. The group is also aware that students across Georgia had recently protested against ICE. If such a protest happened in Social Circle, Lachlan said, I would definitely protest, but I'd be scared. Gareth Finley was also downtown on Thursday with a crew of 12 canvassers talking to people on the street. Founder of a group called Indivisible Boldly Blue, she said, a lot of MAGA supporters support ICE, but don't want these things next to a school or don't want 2 police officers dealing with protesters, referring to the warehouse's location less than a mile from the town's elementary school, as well as the size of the town's on-duty police force. At the end of the day, canvassers had spoken with about 50 residents. Finley said about 80% were opposed to the detention center, but most were very cautious about being identified with a political view, she said. John Miller's building materials company is also downtown. He and others formed a group called One Circle Community Coalition last July with concerns about plans to bring data centers to the area. The group of about 150 locals included liberal Democrats and staunch conservatives, he said. The coalition held a public meeting 6 January on ICE's plans and sent a 4-page letter to the Homeland Security Department on 29 January. Social Circle prides itself on being Georgia's greatest little town, the letter says. Our identity is built upon a small-scale rural character, a character that is incompatible with federal facility of this scale. The letter goes on to note the federal government's lack of transparency and engagement with the town today. We are Americans, after all, it concludes. We will come first or be left out. Will we come first or be left out completely? Miller told The Guardian on Friday that Collins' staffer had sent a text assuring that someone at the federal agency had seen the letter and would be in contact with city officials. Honestly, I don't know if I trust anyone in government at this moment, he said. Marble Standbridge has a 50-year-old business with her husband, Bob, across the road from where the Mammoth Warehouse sits. Standridge Color. Standridge Color is the name of the business, I guess. Standridge Color employs 260 people. She said the couple hosted the early January community meeting on ICE's plans. Standridge didn't approve of the secrecy or lack of communication from federal government to date. She was also concerned about what happened in Minnesota. It was scary. 2 people were killed, and it wasn't necessary. There's always a chance such tragedy could happen here. Standridge mentioned the detention center's potential impact on emergency medical services, which have shown an increase in other areas. Social Circle has 1 ambulance. We only have 2. If I have a heart attack and Bob's calling an ambulance, I'm dead. On Friday afternoon, Social Circle added some news to its Facebook page. A meeting had been called with the Deputy Chief of Staff for U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services and not Homeland Security, which oversees ICE. But the meeting never actually happened. City staff and officials remained available for 45 minutes past the scheduled start time, the Post says. However, the representatives we were instructed to contact never returned our calls. Damn. You think they could do this a little better? Maybe. Especially if they want to set up somewhere where people don't fucking want them. I mean, ultimately, if they want to stop them, there's nothing much they can do, right? They're just going to do it anyways. What else we got?
So I don't know if you know this, but the Department of Homeland Security has allotted $8 million.
Be very, very, very cautious around right-wing people who are currently supporting ICE and ICE's efforts.
$1 million to pay right-wing influencers to promote ICE, to do
$8 million to do pro-ICE content online.
ICE content. So he had a gun, FAFO, what do you expect the law enforcement officers to do if they're feeling like they're in danger? He was clearly a terrorist. I mean, look at the video. These are all government talking points put into the mouth of right-wing commentators. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if all the Megyn Kelly stuff, from the Epstein excuses to the I know I should feel bad about Alex Preddy, but I just don't, is being subsidized. I mean, I'm a podcaster myself. We don't make a whole lot of money without outside sponsorship. But the people who want you to lie, those people pay the most. Look at Benny Johnson and Tim Pool. Those guys were literally getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a month from Russia to push right-wing talking points, and they were never held accountable. And now they're out here doing anti-woman, anti-democracy, pro-ICE work, which I would put money down is being funded by the American government. Tim Pool is in the White House press pool, for God's sakes, in his beanie, lobbing softball questions at Caroline and just laying her up to toe the party line. We hear nothing but lies about paid protesters and professional agitators and George Soros. But I've been doing this work for 10 years because I actually give a shit about democracy in America, and I really believe that our children deserve better than this lawless white national hellscape and destroyed world order. The paid agitators? We're not on the left. Just like the violence isn't coming from the left. Are we organized? Sure. Do some people get paid? Yeah. But this is a job. The question is, between the right-wing buying of all the media empires and the taking over of all the social media platforms, it should be a pretty big deal that the federal government is also using our taxpayer dollars to push their party line as well. And I'll tell you, if you're a donor and you don't like the way the country is going, you are about 10 years behind the 8 ball supporting the truth the way your opponents support the lies. And as the old expression goes, a lie can get all the way around the world before the truth can even get its shoes on. So honestly, we could really use your help. And if you're listening to the right-wing guys, please know that almost every single thing they say isn't because they want you to know the truth, isn't because they want you informed, isn't because they feel so passionately that ICE agents should be able to kill whoever they want. It's because they're making major money off our backs using our tax dollars to lie to us. It should bug ya. So I don't know if you know this, but the Department of Homeland Security.
Pro-ass content, $8 million. You want to start a podcast? Money's up for grabs, I guess. This is the video I was looking for earlier.
What do you mean the King of England's prosecuting his own brother for being in the redacted files, but our own government said we can't do that because the whole thing will collapse? The King of England is prosecuting his own brother. They said they put his
and they arrested him on his birthday, I'm pretty sure.
Own brother in handcuffs. And you telling me...
Oh, let me stop a rumor right the fuck now. I already heard it on Bort's show earlier that Prince Andrew lives in Dracula's castle. So he's like, and you would know this information too, if you paid attention to Alex Jones. So there is some truth to, or it seems to be, some truth to, that Prince Andrew's lineage does include Vlad the Impaler, okay? And Prince Andrew does own land in Romania. It doesn't include the old castle, right? But he does not live in Romania. Why the fuck would he? And Dracula's castle, or Vlad the Impaler's castle, is not in fucking England. Like, why the fuck would you lead off with that? He's like, Prince Andrew was arrested. I don't know if you guys know this, but he lives in Dracula's castle. The fuck, Bort?
Can't put the CEO of Limited 2 in handcuffs? Huh? What? You telling me Bill Gates...
He was living in Norfolk at a farm, like a family farm, because they kicked him out of the fucking... the castle that he was living in.
Telling me we can't put the CEO of Limited 2 in handcuffs? Huh? What? You telling me Bill Gates out here going like a G6 in the sky? And wait, they got Andy from Norfolk. That's what they called him. Prince Andrew was at one point second in line. He was number 2 in line for the crown. He was about to get the best government housing in the history of the world. And now they're calling him Andy from Norfolk. And we can't even talk about David Copperfield? We're out here, Attorney General of the United States being like, the whole thing will collapse if we turn the files into trials. Meanwhile, they're over there in Britain. They never even seen a son, and they're prosecuting royals for the first time since 1647. What was the point of 1776, bitch? What was the point of the Declaration of Independence? If they get more justice for their royals than we can get for our rich people. You got a cabal of redacted elites. They got capes and shit. They got crowns, and they got cuffs for those motherfuckers. What do we have over here? Ambassadorships. We got awards. We got Wall Street bell. Ring the fucking trial bell, motherfucker. What do you mean the King of England's prosecuting his own brother for being in the
very, very valid crash out. I want to watch it again.
Redacted files, but our own government said we can't do that because the whole thing will collapse. The King of England is prosecuting his own brother. They said they put his own brother in handcuffs. And you telling me we can't put the CEO of Limited 2 in handcuffs? Huh? What? You telling me Bill Gates out here going like a G6 in the sky? And wait, they got Andy from Norfolk. That's what they called him. Prince Andrew was at one point second in line. He was number 2 in line for the crown. He was about to get the best government housing in the history of the world. And now they're calling him Andy from Norfolk. And we can't even talk about David Copperfield? We're out here, Attorney General of the United States being like, the whole thing will collapse if we turn the files into trials. Meanwhile, they're over there in Britain. They never even seen a son, and they're prosecuting royals for the first time since 1647. What was the point of 1776, bitch? What was the point of the Declaration of Independence? If they get more justice for their royals than we can get for our rich people. You got a cabal of redacted elites. They got capes and shit. They got crowns, and they got cuffs for those motherfuckers. What do we have over here? Ambassadorships. We got awards. We got Wall Street bells. Ring the fucking trial bell, motherfucker.
That's right. All right, if you don't know about Copperfield, so in August 2007, the Seattle FBI opened an investigation into David Copperfield in relation to a rape of a young female. The investigation showed that Copperfield trained his employees to identify young females, teens to early 20s, in the audience of his shows. These females were separated from their boyfriends and families and husbands and were brought backstage to meet him. Copperfield's employees were given access to a notebook that instructed them how to provide Copperfield with his females. He kept a notebook. He also kept a notebook with the females he was with, including the notebook, and it contained contact information, whether he had sex with them, and a photograph of them. I don't know if any of his victims were underage. They were allegations that he drugged some of the females. And then he has ties to Epstein on top of that. Like, how fucking insane is that? Epstein was a big Copperfield fan, girl, I guess. Disgusting motherfuckers. I don't know. I don't know what to say. They're fucking disgusting. Where was I going next? News girl. We got to watch probably a few of her videos. She's covered quite a bit of this. So here we go.
Did Mr. Epstein ever present you with women for your sexual entertainment?
Absolutely not. That is billionaire Les Wexner. You know how people say follow the money? Well, lawmakers say...
By the way, not a single Republican. He was called in to be deposed in Ohio, I guess. Not a single Republican showed up. Not a single Republican would even show up to the deposition.
The money that allowed Jeffrey Epstein to live his lavish lifestyle and traffic young girls around the world belonged to Wexner. Jeffrey Epstein was sort of a financial advisor to Wexner for years. But how Epstein personally got his hands on Wexner's money is the question. Les Wexner was deposed for 5 hours by members of the House Oversight Committee yesterday, and today the committee released the full video. And Wexner, who was once the owner of Victoria's Secret and Bath & Body Works, testified under oath over and over that he had no recollection of just about anything related to Jeffrey Epstein. And most importantly, Wexner said he had no idea how Epstein got a hold of his money. In fact, Wexner claimed he's the victim.
As I look back at it, I was conned by the world Olympic all-time con artist. And you look at, I read in the news all the people he knew, royalty, kings, princes, and all that. An incredible con artist.
In all, the committee members said they could trace at least $200
Do you think he was fucking conned?
million that Epstein had that belonged to Wexner. But Wexner testified under oath repeatedly that he didn't even realize that money was gone. $200 million, just didn't know. The fact is, over and over, when the committee presented evidence to Wexner tracing Epstein's money back to him, the 88-year-old kept making faces like this or like this. And he then said things like this.
I'm shocked. I'm appalled. I never heard that. You know that?
Now, it's probably hard for normal people like us to believe that Wexner just didn't know that $200 million was missing out of his accounts, but Wexner said he eventually figured it out in either 2007.
Bro, I would probably get a call from the bank trying to close my account if I lost $2. Fucking $200 million.
Or 2008, and that's when he cut off all ties with Epstein. Yet, he never reported to any law enforcement that Epstein stole all that money from him.
Why didn't you file any charges against Epstein if you conned him of $200 million that we know of? Why didn't you go after him?
Well, at the time I didn't know. And
When you found out, why didn't you go after him?
No, one of the things my dad told me that you don't get a pissing contest with an elephant. And running a public company for a long time, I'm not good at public relations. And what I learned in the course of my business career, and the advice is, let us handle it. You don't want to get ahead of this. So I'm happy that today is happening because I want to help, and I would do everything I can to nail that son of a bitch.
Several Epstein victims have made allegations that they were either abused by Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell at one of Wexner's properties, or that they were personally trafficked to Wexner by Epstein. Wexner denies all of it.
There were a subsequent set of allegations from another individual. Are you aware of who Virginia Giuffre is?
No. Familiar name, but I've heard it, but I don't connect it to anything.
Did you ever have any sexual contact of any kind with Ms. Giuffre?
No. I've had contacts that I don't even know.
Ms. Giuffre has accused you of performing sexual acts with her multiple times. Do you dispute these allegations?
She must be confused.
Did you ever witness Mr. Epstein have sexual contact of any kind with young women or girls?
Absolutely not.
Now, it's worth noting that Les Wexner has never been charged with any crime in connection to Jeffrey Epstein, but he was listed as an Epstein co-conspirator by the FBI in 2019, though shockingly, Wexner testified yesterday that the FBI never interviewed him. It's also worth noting that no Republicans from the House Oversight Committee showed up at yesterday's deposition of Wexner, but several House Democrats
No Republicans showed up.
were there, and afterwards, they basically all said that Wexner's story just doesn't make any sense and that they believe Wexner was not a credible witness. So if you want to watch Les Wexner's entire deposition for yourself, I'm going to email it out to you tonight in my fax email, which of course is always free, so make sure you sign yourself up.
Did Mr. Epstein...
$1,300 or 90%? How much is it costing you? This week, I'm doing a series on how much President Trump's actions and policies are actually costing you. I'm not doing this to pick on anyone. I'm doing it because, as I have always done, I'm reporting on several new reports that have just recently been released on the 2025 and 2026 costs for Americans. So today is part one, and I'm talking about President Trump's tariffs. And I'm focusing on two specific reports. One is from the New York Fed, and the other is from the Tax Foundation, which is a nonpartisan research organization that's been reporting on all administrations and their tax policies since 1937. So let's start with a report from the New York Fed. They found that you and American businesses who are importing goods are paying 90% of President Trump's new tariffs. Not the foreign country, but as I have been reporting since 2024, you, the American consumer, and American businesses are the ones paying for these tariffs. Now, the Fed says the tariff cost to you is coming down, but you are still overwhelmingly paying for them. The New York Fed said between January and August of 2025, the foreign exporter, so the foreign country, was paying about 6% of the tariff, but the American importer paid 94% of the tariff. By November of 2025, the New York Fed found the foreign exporter was paying 14% of the tariff, but the U.S. importer was still paying 86%, which means American businesses are still paying the overwhelming amount
of course we are.
Tariff. And if they haven't done it already, they're absolutely passing that cost on to you, the consumer. Now, for the record, just yesterday, President Trump's economic advisor, Kevin Hassett, trashed this report from the New York Fed, calling it an embarrassment and even suggesting that the New York Fed researchers who wrote this report should be punished Look, every economist in the world knows that tariffs are a tax, and generally the cost of those tariffs fall on the person who is importing that item, and then those costs usually get passed down to consumers. So I'm not real sure why the White House is so confused about these findings. But you may be wondering, what does 90% look like in dollars? Well, according to this new report from the Tax Foundation, in 2025, that cost for Trump's tariffs translated to $1,000 for the average U.S. household. And they say it's going to get worse in 2026. According to their calculations, the average U.S. household is going to be paying $1,300 more in 2026 because of Trump's tariffs. The Tax Foundation says there's no doubt that Trump's tariffs are going to bring in money to the U.S. government. That's a fact. They estimate Trump's tariffs will bring in about $2 trillion.
Like a murder board.
Government over the next 10 years. For the record, the Congressional Budget Office believes that number is actually more like $3 trillion over the next 10 years, which will help the bottom line.
I've been watching Avoidzilla. He's got like a murder board.
Budget. But you have to understand, as I have been reporting for more than a year, that money is coming out of your pocket. The Tax Foundation says these Trump tariffs are the largest U.S. tax increase as a percentage of GDP since 1993.
So remember, Trump's cutting the taxes, right? But just his tariffs is the largest tax increase as a percentage of GDP since 1993.
And they could actually offset all the tax cuts that were just included in the big, beautiful bill. So if you want to read either of these reports from the New York Fed or from the Tax Foundation, I'm going to email both of them out to you tonight in my Facts HQ email, which of course is always free. Stephen Colbert is beefing with his own network, CBS. I'm sure you've already seen that video floating around the internet today. Colbert says CBS refused to allow him to interview a Democratic candidate for the U.S. Senate seat in Texas on his TV show last night, a candidate named James Tallarico.
Because my network clearly doesn't want us to talk about this. Let's talk about this.
But why would CBS do that? Because of something called the equal time rule, and because of this guy's move to change the rule and follow President Trump's lead to crack down on daytime and late night TV. So let me explain. Brendan Carr, who is the chairman of Trump's FCC, which is the U.S. agency that oversees broadcasting and broadcast licenses in this country, recently distributed this public notice to all broadcasters. In the letter, Carr talks about what we call the equal time rule, and he also talks about the bona fide exceptions to that rule. The law under the Communications Act applies to broadcasters on TV or broadcasters on the radio, not cable news shows, not online shows, not streaming shows, only broadcasters on TV and on radio. The law says if the TV or radio broadcasters give a qualified political candidate for office airtime on their broadcast airwaves, they must also give equal time to all of the other qualified political candidates who are also in that race. The idea is to make sure that things are fair and everyone gets equal time on public airwaves. However, Congress built in an exception to that rule, and that exception is for bona fide news programs on broadcast TV and on radio. So if you have a bona fide newscast, a bona fide news interview, a bona fide news documentary, or are broadcasting about a bona fide breaking news event on broadcast TV or on radio, the law says you do
They all fall under this interview exemption.
not have to follow the equal time rule because Congress did not want to dictate who a news organization deemed newsworthy. So you're probably thinking, Colbert is...
Oh, and obviously breaking news, right? If you did breaking news because James Tallarico fucking dropped out of the race or some shit. Well, I guess dropped out of the race wouldn't be good. Because James Tallarico surged ahead in the polls.
News program. He hosts a late night talk show. So if we're following the law the way you just described it, Lisa, then if Stephen Colbert wanted to have James Tallarico on his late night show, then he should also have all the other candidates running against him for that same U.S. Senate seat in Texas, including Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, Ken Paxton, and the guy who currently holds the seat, Senator John Cornyn. But not so fast. Up until Trump came into office, Stephen Colbert's show and all late night talk shows and even daytime talk shows have been granted the bona fide news program exception. Why? Because of this guy. For all of you younger folks, that is Jay Leno. He was the host of The Tonight Show long before Jimmy Fallon came around. P.S. Back then, The Tonight Show was also located in Los Angeles, not in New York. And back
Well, it's actually, I mean, fuck, it's been around longer than that, right? Like, fucking, The Late Show back in the fucking 70s was doing it.
2006, Jay Leno wanted to have a candidate on his show who was running for governor of California, a Republican named Arnold Schwarzenegger. Leno had Schwarzenegger on his Tonight Show for 15 minutes and 41 seconds. Well, the Democrat candidate for governor who was running against Schwarzenegger said, wait a minute, since Jay Leno is on NBC, which is a broadcast TV network, and he gave Schwarzenegger 15 minutes and 41 seconds of free airtime, I want 15 minutes and 41 seconds of airtime too. And that Democrat petitioned the FCC, arguing that Jay Leno's Tonight Show was not a bona fide news program, therefore, Jay Leno is not exempt from the equal time rule. Well, under then President George W. Bush, the FCC told that Democrat candidate to go pound sand. They issued this order a few weeks later saying that Jay Leno's Tonight Show is considered a bona fide news show because he has interviewed all kinds of newsworthy people and has conducted all kinds of actual news interviews. So Jay Leno is not required to follow the equal time rule. And that decision came after the FCC made a similar decision way back in 1984 over an older daytime talk show that you probably will not remember, but I do, called Donahue. And ever since then, late night and daytime broadcasters have not had to follow the equal time rule. But now, under the Trump administration, Commissioner Carr says, wait a minute, we don't think these late night talk shows...
Oh, they fucking pulled down my channel, actually, from showing the Colbert clip last night. I had to remove it to get the show back up on YouTube.
Because according to the Trump administration, all of those shows are motivated by partisan purposes. Carr says he's thinking about changing the rule. So now all of a sudden, after 20 years, the FCC is changing the rule. I'll let you decide why that's happening right now. But you should also, of course, put this into the context of President Trump's war on late night and daytime talk shows. Remember, just last year, he and Commissioner Carr tried to get Jimmy Kimmel.
Of course, it's a personal vendetta. It always is. Everything.
Doge was supposed to save us trillions of dollars. The big beautiful bill was going to cut our debt, and tariffs were going to offset all the spending that President Trump wanted to do.
This is her bonus show, I think.
We were all told. Well, according to the latest estimate from the Nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office, not only is none of that happening, but our budget deficit is getting worse. And before I get into the numbers and explain what's going on.
And the White House is just like, well, what about all the tariffs and the new business coming? They're like, we took that into account.
Subscribers for voting for this story as the bonus this week. If you want to vote on next week's bonus story or get access to some other perks like my private live events and my deep dives like this one I posted just yesterday on the real numbers of voter fraud, make sure you follow these easy steps and become a paid subscriber too. The reality is the only way my channel survives is through the generosity of my awesome paid subscribers. Without them, I would not be able to report the news for you every single day. So if you want to support my work, and if you can, please consider becoming a paid subscriber. Okay, let's talk about these new numbers. The CBO regularly releases estimates and projections for the U.S. economy, the gross domestic product, GDP, the budget deficit, and the debt. Just so we're clear on the terminology, a deficit happens when the U.S. government spends more money than it brings in. The deficit is calculated every single year. So if, for example, the government spent $1 million, but it only brought in $300,000 in revenue, then that year's budget deficit would be $700,000. So the government spent $700,000 that it didn't have. Then when it comes to the debt, that is the total of all of the deficits over time. So now that we have that straight, according to the Congressional Budget Office, the deficit at the end of fiscal year 2026, which is President Trump's first full year where his policies are 100% controlling all of the spending, that deficit is projected to be $1.85 trillion. That is compared to the 2025 deficit, which was $1.78 trillion. Yes, the new 2026 deficit number takes into account the big beautiful bill spending, the revenue generated from Trump's tariffs, the GDP growth, and all the spending that President Trump is doing to step up his immigration enforcement across the country. The CBO projects that between now and 2035, Trump's higher tariffs will reduce our deficit by $3 trillion, but the big beautiful bill will increase the deficit by $4.7 trillion. And the increased immigration crackdown will increase the deficit by $500 billion. And the thing is, the big beautiful bill cut the tax revenue the U.S. government would have received from big businesses and from individuals like you and me. So the U.S. government isn't getting that money in as revenue, but then keeps spending money. That's how we get this deficit. The CBO expects this deficit is going to increase just a little bit again in fiscal year 2027. But then if we stay on this track, it is going to explode in 10 years to $3.1 trillion. So how is the Trump administration responding to these numbers? Well, of course, they say the CBO's numbers are flawed because they say the CBO is not properly estimating the huge economic boom that the White House expects is going to happen because of all of President Trump's policies.
But they are saying we did take that into account.
Economic boom is going to bring that deficit number down. The CBO says, yeah, we did consider the economic growth that is expected to happen under Trump's policies, but their projections of that growth are much smaller than what the White House is saying. The CBO expects GDP growth for the U.S. economy to be about 2.2% in fiscal year 2026, but the Trump administration says that GDP growth is actually going to be between 3 and 4%, and even suggests that we're going to see 6% GDP growth in just the first quarter of 2026. We will see who's right on those numbers in April when the Q1 data comes out for the GDP. Okay, so why should this matter to you? Well, first of all, it's your money, so you should know. But even if that doesn't bother you right now, it should, because in a few years, it is going to impact you. How? Well, when all of these deficits pile up year after year, you get this, the U.S. debt, which is currently sitting at $38.6 trillion. The interest cost alone to pay that debt is crippling. Think about your own credit card. If you let your debt sit there and you don't pay it off, you just keep paying this crazy amount of interest, right? And it feels like you're wasting money on that interest. You're like throwing it away. Same goes for the U.S. government, except the CBO is projecting that we are going to be paying $1 trillion in just interest in 2026. And when we're stuck paying $1 trillion in interest, that's money that cannot be spent on things like Social Security payments or Medicare or Medicaid. And the problem is all of those programs are getting more and more expensive to operate because of inflation and because more and more people are in those programs, drawing from those programs because people are living longer and using the benefits for more years than we originally anticipated. Which, if we stay on this track, will absolutely run out of money for those programs, or at the very least reduce the amount of benefit that you receive when it's your turn. Does that make sense? So the bottom line here is, despite all the rhetoric that you hear from lawmakers and the White House, the debt and the deficit are not decreasing. They are getting bigger and more expensive. Doge was supposed to save us trillions.
They always are. The other thing I wanted to cover, she does a good job just catching up on the news. The other thing I want to cover is something that was proposed a few days ago. It's pretty fucked up, honestly. Basically, the VA supposedly was going to implement a new rule, and it has to do with VA disability. And under this new rule, if the treatment, so right now, you're basically classified under VA disability as if your worst case scenario, the worst day that you have, as if that's your life. Okay? Now, if you get some type of treatment or some type of medication, if it doesn't fix you long term, like it gives you good days, but you also have bad days, you're still ranked as your worst day. So imagine someone that has PTSD and they're on some type of treatment, and some days they live their life as if they're normal, but some days, an overwhelming amount of days, they can't live their life. The VA's new rule proposal was going to take into account treatment, and currently they do not, right? So as long as you're like not fixed, right? You can't like fix depression. You can't like fix PTSD. You can't fix someone missing a leg. As long as you're not fixed, you're basically rated as if your worst day, right? The new rule proposal was going to take treatment into account. So basically, if you had this treatment and it helped you, then they were going to change your rating. And the reason that's bad is because that incentivizes people to not do treatment, right? That incentivizes people to not admit that treatment's working or not pursue treatment at all. They got so much backlash to this. So the head of the VA come out and said, oh, this is fake news. This was like 2 days ago. He came out and said, oh, this is fake news. This has always been the rule. It's not going to change anything. This is just for new people that are getting on disability, blah, 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 blah. Bunch of bullshit. He's even backed off that now. There was so much backlash against this. I guess they've dropped it completely.
Hey, this is not usually my thing, but I'm going to share with you some good news, and that's that we beat the Trump administration. It took like 24, maybe 36 hours. So here's what happened. On Tuesday, February 17th, the Trump administration proposed a new rule that would impact disabled veterans. It would make it so that when disabled
By the way, this is in Project 2025. As well as like right now, the least amount that you can draw a disability check is 10%. They want to raise that to 30%. They want to make other things harder. They want to cap stuff. They want to pull your disability when you're eligible for Social Security. They want to do a bunch of things in Project 2025. This is one of them.
Vets are medicated or treated for their service-related conditions. They don't get financially compensated for those disabilities anymore. The way that they look at it is basically like if you have chronic pain and you're taking a bunch of pills all day, well, then you're not in pain, so you shouldn't be compensated for that. That was the logic that they were using. And I'm not exaggerating here. This is exactly what it meant. It meant that if you had PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, they would look at your best days when you are medicated and you would be compensated according to those symptoms, not the symptoms that you had, maybe when you were homeless or when you were dealing with self-medication or when you were dealing with ideations of self-harm. But look, the good news is they immediately turn tail and run. They changed their minds. Even after Secretary Doug Collins, that doofy fuck, came forward and was tweeting and saying, oh, this is fake news, this is not real. Within 20 hours of that post, he went out and said, no, just kidding, we're not actually enforcing the new rule anymore. So look, I know that veterans in politics is like a...
This would probably also trigger a bunch of reviews of people who have been permanently and totally disabled for years. Who feel like they're kind of safe. They can bank on this. They can buy a house. They can finance a car. They can do this. They can do that. They feel like they're safe because they've been in this treatment plan. They've been told it's not going to change this, that, and it probably would have triggered a bunch of people fucking around with their case. And that's one thing you don't want to do with veterans. If you fucking fight for 10 goddamn years to get your goddamn disability, you don't want to start telling people like, we're going to start fucking around, looking around, see what we can change over there.
Special case in this country, but you should take this as a win. Recognize that public pressure still works. And look, they're still going to be taking comments. So if you go to regulations.gov and you look up evaluative rating impact of medication, you can still leave a public comment that says why you think that their proposed rule of only measuring symptoms when veterans are medicated, why that is dumb, it's harmful, and will lead to...
And there's been a weird spin on this of like trying to say like veterans are milking the system or doing this, but even the VA's own study says that like less than 1% of disability cases filed each year are false or fake or exaggerated or whatever.
Worse outcomes, worse health outcomes for veterans and their families.
But I've been noticing the media running stories of like, this guy, there's nothing wrong with him, and people say that other people are milking the system.
Celebrate this win.
There is a group. So I'm in like some Facebook groups, like when I was trying to get my disability and when I got my disability. There is a group of like vet bros who feel like they're the only person on the goddamn planet who deserves disability. So when you come in there and ask a question about like, hey, I don't really know how to word this right to like get the right percentage or whatever, they're like, oh, if you were really disabled, you'd know, and you're just trying to fuck the system. There's a group of people like that. They're weird motherfuckers, but they do exist.
We don't have many of them these days. You should recognize that if you can get one win, you can get another. So keep fighting.
I'm in the hey, fuck them. Like they fucked up so much shit in my life that I can't claim. I don't give a goddamn if you go in there and claim every fucking thing in your record. Go for it. Get it, buddy.
And I want to thank everybody who came out and posted videos, who, went and talked to their members of Congress, who filled out the public comment form on regulations.gov, because you guys made a difference. It is no small feat to get the Trump administration to back down, particularly in like 24 or 36.
I want to see this original story. I think that's what this is.
Hey, don't scroll. I need your help. I'm going to tell you something that's going to piss you off, but I'm going to tell you where to put that anger to make a positive difference. The VA just changed its rules for how disability payments are determined for veterans. They made it so that if a disabled veteran's medication works, the VA will reduce that veteran's disability compensation. Yeah, yes, you heard that right. The Trump administration just issued a new rule that says that VA will rate your disability based on how you function while on medication. So if your PTSD meds help you stabilize, if your pain meds let you move, if your treatment makes you look better, they can say that you're less disabled and reduce your compensation. Most service-connected disabilities don't just disappear. PTSD does.
So the problem with a lot of people is you're disincentivized of like going to the doctor or going to sick call or reporting injuries and blah, blah, blah. So by the time you get to the stage with the VA, if you've got stuff on your record, that's what you got to go with, right? Even though I'll never get fucking compensation for like my knees and my back and all the shit I fucked up, TBIs and concussions, because they weren't reported correctly, right? That the things that are on your files, push them as far as you can with the VA and get everything you deserve from that.
Doesn't resolve with pills. Chronic pain doesn't go away, it gets masked. Traumatic brain injury doesn't magically heal because you're on meds. Toxic exposure illnesses like I have are lifetime conditions, and they don't go away. Medication can manage symptoms, but it does not erase the underlying damage. I live with severe PTSD. Some months I function at a very high level. Other months I can barely get out of bed. That volatility is the disability. But this rule allows the VA to look at your good days and pretend your worst ones don't exist. This rule is already in effect. They pushed it through using an expedited process. And while they claim current ratings don't automatically change, ratings will get reevaluated. Veterans will lose their financial stability and their health will follow in a vicious downward spiral. This isn't just about veterans. This is Donald Trump trying to rule like a king and not be held accountable.
I don't know. I doubt they'll pitch it like that. And I doubt most people will see it that way. But when I signed up, I wasn't even fucking thinking about, oh, well, you'll have health care, when you get out or whatever.
Our democracy. Trump has always resented veterans and especially hated disabled veterans because we represent everything that he could never be. But if you believe that disabled veterans shouldn't be penalized for following treatment, doctor's orders, you can do something about this. There is still a public comment period. It closes April 20th. Go to regulations.gov and search RIN 2900AS49. Submit a comment in your own words. You don't need to be a veteran to speak up. Silence will be interpreted as consent, and we must never be silent. Hey, don't scroll. I need your.
Yeah, I'm glad they backed off that. That was pretty good. Let's see what Bort's doing on his voicemail.
7041. Please leave your name, number, and time you called, and I'll get back to you. Thanks.
Hey, Bert. This is Jason Pope, the trucker's coach, and
that's also true. Don't let them tell you that. I did not even seek treatment because I kept telling myself I was fine for like 10 years after I got out. Like the first time I saw a therapist, I think was like 9 years and 8 months after I got out of the military or some shit.
Oh, he let you in on a secret. I probably shouldn't tell you this because Wilhelmina fucking told me not to fucking help you. But I feel bad for you, Bert. Oh, no, sorry, Bort. Oh, God damn it. See, I'm helping you. I'm not supposed to be helping you. Wilhelmina's gonna fucking make a goddamn picture of me next with my dick hanging out of my pants and then make it as a donation propaganda situation. Oh, God damn it. Stop feeding the trolls. You're not very good at this, Bort. Bort, every time you go and fucking be mean to my Wilhelmina, they bring out the pictures of you with your fallacy hanging out your pants. And that's when he gets the money. Do you know that he got $567 the other night? And last night, while they were talking about you, he got $212. Bort, that's $700 in less than a week. It's Thursday. He's still got a show tonight and tomorrow, Bort. God damn it. By the way,
It's only Thursday, Bort.
I called your goddamn...
Retired in 2006. Just claimed 3 years ago. The VA doc told me I wouldn't get anything because I'm too old. Oh, yeah. Yeah, don't let them fucking tell you that for sure. They'll also tell you that, or some people will. They'll tell you that it has to be like well documented while you're in, blah, 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 especially if you've been to combat. And I'm not saying not if you haven't been to combat. It doesn't always have to be documented. You can use buddy statements. You can use family statements. You can use a private doctor statement. You can use a bunch of different statements. But if you've been to combat, if you've been in a combat area, if you've been overseas, they have to, unless they find evidence that you're just fucking lying, they have to take your shit as if it happened. So if you say, hey, we were driving out the road in a convoy, we were engaged by mortars, blah, 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 unless they find evidence that it did not happen, you weren't on this convoy, there was a report that no mortars were fired, they have to take your statement into account as if it's true, unless they find direct evidence against it. Because I was in, there are units that are incentivized not to report shit because it's just more paperwork and more issues and more this, and no one wants to. It was the fucking 15th time we've been shot at by goddamn machine guns. We're not writing it up again because it's a goddamn 3-hour debrief, that kind of shit. So,
damn landlord there at front desk talked to Jake, and Jake said that your neighbors are black people. Are you racist, you motherfucker? You know your hair is black. Oh, and it's so fucking black. Oh my God. BDS syndrome is alive and well inside of me when I look at Will. Wait, did I get that right?
Get after it.
All right, Bort. Trucker's coach.
That's be bad. I hope you get what you deserve, man.
God damn it, Jason Poed out. Bort, stop hating on the haters. Makes you look
Also, one more thing. I'm sorry I keep interrupting this. Actually, let this play, then I'll say. It's almost done.
childish. Stop being childish. You're a 73-year-old man.
Stop being childish. You're a 73-year-old man. Okay. One more thing on a Reddit. So I would always look at the Reddit thing. I don't hardly ever post on the veterans thing, but I would always look on it, the VA disability Reddit post. And a lot of people were like, don't even bother disputing, just make a new claim, just do this, just do that, blah, blah, blah. And there's a lot of times where I thought I should have disputed. I didn't because they're like, there's no point in it, blah, blah, blah. Dude, the very first, every time I fucking disputed a claim, I actually fucked it up. Okay? Like I had one claim that was settled in January, let's say. I don't remember when it was. I had one claim that was settled in January. And I had another claim that was settled in like June. And this was July. Okay? And I wanted to dispute the one from June. But I accidentally fucked up the paperwork and disputed the one from January. So when the person called me, like the supervisor or whatever called me for the dispute, she's like, oh, you're disputing this claim from like January. And I'm like, oh, no, fuck. Actually, what I'm trying to dispute is the most recent claim I just had. I must have filled out the paperwork wrong. And she's like, well, I can look at it, but I can't use it as a deciding factor because you put, like, the most I can look to is up to the January claim because that's what you put on your paperwork. And I'm like, yeah, I know. But she's like, still, tell me what's going on. And I told her, I went through the whole thing, and I was like, well, this and this. And I know what my doctor said. My doctor sent me a copy of what they said. And then I got this document back saying this wasn't there and that wasn't there and blah, 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 whatever. Right. And the doctor said the exact opposite. And she's like, I'll see what I can do. It was goddamn 2 days later. 2 days later, I got a fucking email that said they found a mistake in my paperwork from goddamn 3 years ago, and they were going to fix it all and make it 100% permanent total. Like, get the fuck out of here, dude. I wish I had disputed that. I wish I had disputed from the fucking get-go, but I was told by people on Reddit, like, oh, yeah, disputes hardly ever work. Just go with it and do this and do that and keep your claim open so you get back pay, which that's one thing I fucked up. I didn't get all the back pay I deserved because I would get so frustrated with the process. I would let claims close, and then fucking 6 months after they close, I'd be like, you know what? Fuck them. I'm going to file again. I'm going to file again, motherfucker. Like, but if I would have kept an open claim and like documents coming in, I could have gotten back paid from the fucking moment I filed, which would have been life-changing amounts of money. But I would get aggravated and pissed off and be like, fuck it, I'm not even going to do it. I'm going to get another fucking job. I'm going to see if I can do this. I bet you I can do that, and go on about my life. And then I would get pissed off again. Usually what pissed me off the most into refiling was seeing an Army recruiting ad or commercial. And I'd be like, those motherfuckers, you just wait. I get the goddamn computer. I'm filing my paperwork again. Sons of bitches. But yeah, there you go. Stay with it. Don't let your claim expire. Stay on top of it. Basically, you just have to have something change within a year to keep the claim open. File something, do something, keep it open, and dispute the fuck out of it. And maybe I'm weird. Maybe I'm an outlier. But everybody was talking about how the higher level review people were like dicks and assholes. Mine was super nice. And she's like, tell me what the problem is, and what do you think is actually going on, and what would you like to happen, blah, 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 blah. She's like, I'll take this to everything I do has got to go through my supervisor, but I'll take it back there, and we got a team that'll look over it, and boom, it was done. So I kind of fucked all that up, but it is what it is. We're here now.
It's over. Transparency and accountability have been achieved. The DOJ has released all of the Epstein files, or so they claim, except for at least 3 million documents that they previously said were responsive and needed to be released. Those are still being withheld by the most transparent administration in history. But in its Valentine's Day letter to Congress, DOJ declared that it had fulfilled its obligations under the Epstein Files Transparency Act, but that it was still withholding some files, though the agency didn't say how many files, though they previously said, there were 3 million to go. So, yeah, that doesn't look great. Now, to be fair, some of those documents should be withheld by the terms of the Epstein Files Transparency Act, or EFTA. Some of them probably contain graphic sexual material or sensitive personal information about survivors. But victim protection isn't the only reason that the DOJ is now hiding documents. The agency is claiming that it can continue to hide a bunch of records under various legal privileges. But Congress was pretty clear in the EFTA. Those kinds of privileges just don't apply here, because the categories of documents the DOJ must release are shockingly broad. Like, waive all your privileges and release all the documents and videos broad. But who could possibly have seen this coming? We did. We saw it coming. And I actually asked Congressman Jamie Raskin this exact...
It is. That was my next step. Before they found a mistake in my paperwork from years earlier or whatever, that was my next step, is to either get an attorney, or I was going to go to one of those, I hate to call them sharks, but like one of the people that do like claims all the time, that know how the paperwork's supposed to be filled out. Because the last time I used AI to help with my paperwork, I'm not even gonna lie, I was like, here's what's going on, here's what I need to say, I needed to meet this format, I needed to do this. Like, I prompted the fuck out of it. Like, I just didn't be like, hey, get me disability AI. Like, I prompted the fuck out of it and made like 30, 40 revisions, but I eventually used it to write my shit. But the next thing I was going to do is go to one of those like vet claims places or a lawyer.
That question 2 days before the DOJ released a letter saying it was not turning over responsive documents based on privileges it doesn't have. He was surprised. Reading through the Epstein Files Transparency Act, again with an eye towards that particular defense, privilege is not a defense to withholding responsive documents.
The federal law that we passed obviously overrides whatever.
The problem with the federal law is it is all-encompassing, and it should cause them, but there's no teeth to it, right? What if they don't do this? Nothing.
State law level privilege you think you've got. The terms of the statute are perfectly clear about that. So that is fraudulent, that argument that she was floating yesterday.
Now, we've covered in depth how the EFTA became law in previous videos, but let's speed run a recap. Congressional Republicans and the Trump administration did everything in their power to keep this act from passing. They leveraged government shutdowns, intimidation campaigns, and even prevented a lawfully elected Democratic member of Congress from being sworn in to cast the deciding vote. In the end, though, congressional Democrats, with the help of a handful of Republican members, got the EFTA passed. And by the time it got to the floor, every single member of Congress, except for one, voted to pass the law. And so with a veto-proof majority, President Trump had no option left but to sign the law.
Oh yeah, thank you for your service, SB bad.
Else his base keep asking a lot of questions already answered by his "I'm not involved with Jeffrey Epstein" t-shirt. And as an example of how irony can be quite...
I'm brand new. I think, what was it? It was like in the fall, right, chat? When I got my 100% permanent total? Like, I haven't had it for long.
Ironic. That meme actually began its life literally as a comment about unrelated human trafficking. Now, the EFTA is an extremely focused law. It's only really 2 pages long. It requires the DOJ to publish all records related to Jeffrey Epstein, his co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell, his flight logs or travel records, individuals named or referenced in connection with Epstein's criminal and civil proceedings,
maybe this summer,
organizations with known or alleged ties to Epstein's trafficking or financial networks, any immunity deals or similar agreements involving Epstein and his associates, internal DOJ documents, including communications regarding investigations of Epstein, and communications and documents regarding how the Epstein documents were handled. And Congress gave the Department of Justice...
Here's what I was told when I left. Make sure you go by the VA and report everything to them so they cover it. And we filled out a bunch of paperwork before we left that was supposed to be like everything that's wrong with you. This is post-deployment, maybe. Everything that was wrong with you, so the VA had a record of it. But all you want to fucking do is leave, dude.
30 days to complete this task. The agency failed. It took them months to release any documents, and when the DOJ did finally release some documents over the course of December, January, and February, the agency still withheld millions of pages and applied a lot of redactions that they shouldn't have. Now, Congress carved out only a few narrow categories of documents that the agency could keep secret: personally identifiable information and other sensitive information about victims, child sexual abuse materials, information that would jeopardize an active federal investigation or ongoing prosecution, documents that depict death, physical abuse, or injury, and classified information. And Congress explicitly said that no records shall be withheld, delayed, or redacted on the basis of embarrassment, reputational harm, or political sensitivity, including to any government official, public figure, or foreign dignitary. But across 3 letters to Congress in December, January, and February, the DOJ claimed that it could withhold information covered by deliberative process privilege, work product privilege, and attorney-client privilege. But members of Congress,
none of that's true,
including Representative Raskin, who we talked to about this, reminded America's top attorneys that this is not how the legal system works, and subpoenaed Attorney General Pamela Jo Bondi to explain her legal theory to Congress.
Not a complicated question. Well, I guess it is for you, because you have a law degree and those are privileged.
Now, in a courtroom context, this would have been documented as the witness is unresponsive. And in the context of a congressional hearing, this was just a cluster of... But anyway, let's break down why Attorney General Bondi thinks that she can claim privilege and withhold responsive documents. Now, Congress members were probably particularly upset because they had been really clear that these kinds of documents have to be disclosed. And one category of documents that the Act expressly requires the DOJ to disclose is internal DOJ communications, including emails, memos, meeting notes, concerning decisions to charge, not charge, investigate, or decline to investigate Epstein or his associates. Those are exactly the kinds of documents that the DOJ is now claiming it can withhold. But the privileges that the agency is asserting are common law principles that make some kinds of documents immune from normal disclosure or discovery in civil litigation and under the Freedom of Information Act. For example, the deliberative process privilege generally allows agencies to withhold documents that would reveal the agency's internal deliberations or decision-making process.
But they literally carved this out. This is not normal circumstances. This is not a civil case. They carved it out and said, oh, we don't give a fuck. If you usually withhold these documents, you can't now.
The idea behind this is that if those discussions were made public, it would chill discussion within agencies and keep agency employees from being candid in their policy assessments. That privilege is limited, though. It only covers opinion-related discussions within government. It doesn't allow agencies to withhold facts or withhold discussions from parties outside of the government, and it only allows agencies to withhold pre-decisional materials. Once a decision is made, those kind of materials should not be withheld. Similarly, attorney work product privilege covers documents that are prepared by an attorney in anticipation of litigation. It's meant to protect an attorney's mental impressions, conclusions, opinions, and legal theories. And then, of course, there's the well-known attorney-client privilege that protects confidential communications between a lawyer and their client that relate to the client's seeking of legal advice or services. Now, the DOJ claims those privileges are sacrosanct and can only be limited when Congress has used, quote, clear statutory language. And in its letter to Congress, DOJ argues that, quote, before any departure from the rule affirmed through the ages of the common law, a rule having its solid foundation in the best interests of society can be adjudged, the language declaring the legislative will should be so clear as to prevent doubt as to its intent and limit. And, quote, Congress expresses its intentions through statutory text passed by both houses and signed by the president. But to me, it seems like the very cases that the DOJ is citing actually undercut the agency's withholdings because Congress has used clear statutory language in the EFTA. If you look again at the text of the EFTA that says, quote, internal DOJ communications, including emails, memos, meeting notes concerning decisions to charge, not charge, investigate, or decline to investigate Epstein or his associates. Internal DOJ communications about decisions are textbook deliberative process documents, but Congress is explicitly stating that the agency must disclose those deliberative discussions. On top of it, the DOJ must release, quote, all communications memoranda, directive, logs, or metadata data concerning the destruction, deletion, alteration, misplacement, or concealment of documents, recordings, or electronic data related to Epstein, his associates, his detention and death, and any investigative files. Which means that the DOJ also has to turn over not only the documents that have existed.
Did anybody tell this guy that the Dow's at 50,000?
In the Epstein files for years, but the documents that they are currently creating in discussing redactions about the Epstein files and all of the communications and memos that they're writing about the decisions they're making right now about the Epstein case. The Epstein files are not just set in stone. They're documents that the DOJ are creating right now. And on top of that, to the extent that there are any redactions or withholdings, the EFTA specifically says the DOJ can only do that to, quote, segregable portions of those documents, meaning that if there's any way to release that document or file with only the withheld portions redacted, they have an obligation to do that and disclose that information and not withhold the entire thing if they can. On top of that, Congress also explicitly states that only a handful of document categories can be withheld, and common law privileges are not included in that list. And when Congress wants to allow agencies to withhold materials under those common law privileges, it typically includes language that expressly permits that. In the Freedom of Information Act, for instance, Congress clearly carved out an exception for privileged documents. In general, the Freedom of Information Act typically requires agencies to disclose information in response to a request from the member of the public. But Congress created 9 exceptions to that rule, including one for common law privileges. Agencies can withhold, quote, interagency or intra-agency memorandums or letters that would not be available by law to a party other than an agency in litigation with the agency. So if Congress intended to allow the DOJ to withhold privileged documents, it could have included similar language in the EFTA, but it didn't, which is the kind of choice that a court would likely weigh heavily against any Trump administration argument about congressional intent. But there's also an interesting separation of powers argument that the administration would probably fall back on if Congress tries to force the DOJ to disclose the withheld documents. The administration might claim that Congress doesn't actually have the authority to override the executive branch's privileges. In other words, the power of the executive branch and the privileges the president enjoys are absolute. Now, it's only February and 2026 is already rife with economic uncertainty. So what should you do about it? Well, a timeless piece of advice has always been keep a savings account with at least 3 months of living expenses. But with skyrocketing...
Who the fuck can do that now? God damn, dude. I'm just hoping that somebody comes in and puts down a couple $1,000 donations one show.
Prices and inflation, getting there can seem out of reach. But that's what
3 months.
The sponsor of today's video. Chime's high yield savings account, or
dude.
HYSA, does exactly that. And right now you can get up to a $350 bonus. Set it once and then earn all year because Chime's HYSA earns you money while you sleep. And that's what makes Chime's HYSA unique. You can earn up to 3.0% APY, which is over 7 times the national average savings rate. Now, I'll admit I've never paid much attention to savings accounts because I used to think that earning pennies on my savings was normal, which makes Chime's earning rates all the more impressive. So a $10,000 deposit can earn you about $300 per year. And that earned interest can compound quicker than you might think. And don't worry, your money is never locked up and you can access it easily at any time. Plus, your funds are FDIC insured through Chime's bank partners, so you can rest easy. But what if you don't have any cash saved to start earning? Well, Chime's got you covered there too. Using their roundup feature, everyday purchases save spare change automatically. Bought a coffee for $4.67, that's 33 cents saved. And honestly, it adds up over time, so you don't even have to think about it. So see for yourself why over 1 million users give Chime a 5-star rating and make your money actually work for you in 2026. And right now, Chime is offering an exclusive up to $350 bonus through my link. So click on the link below or scan the code on screen. Plus, you'll get no overdraft fees, and you can even get your paycheck up to 2 days early. So click or scan to start earning, or I'll see you in court. But courts have allowed Congress to override agency privileges when there's a sufficient need. As DC District Court Judge Amy Berman Jackson concluded in the 2016 case Committee on Oversight and Government Reform, United States House of Representatives versus Lynch, quote, the deliberative process privilege is a qualified privilege that can be overcome by a sufficient showing of need for that material. In that case, Judge Berman Jackson concluded that though the agency materials did qualify for deliberative process privilege, that privilege had to yield to Congress's demand for those materials. But perhaps the most relevant case on this topic comes from the OG presidential corruption scandal.
Well, I'm not a crook.
After Nixon's resignation over his participation in the Watergate conspiracy, Nixon got the Administrator of General Services to agree to store his presidential records near
Nixon was so fucking crooked, not just Watergate. There's so much shit.
His home, restrict access to those presidential records, and even allow Nixon to choose which ones would be destroyed. To keep Nixon from concealing more of his misdeeds, Congress passed a bill called the Presidential Records and Materials Preservation Act, which abrogated Nixon's agreement with the Administrator of General Services. Nixon sued to challenge that law and took his case all the way to the Supreme Court in Nixon versus Administrator of General Services. Nixon argued that the act violated the separation of powers and his executive privilege, but the Supreme Court disagreed. The court held that the act did not violate the separation of powers, especially since Nixon's successor, Gerald Ford, signed the act into law, which signaled acceptance by the executive branch and essentially waived the former executive's ability to challenge the law. And this is particularly relevant in the Epstein Files Transparency Act because Trump signed the act into law knowing that it didn't include any language that would allow withholdings for deliberative process, attorney-client, and attorney work product, or even executive privilege materials. So by
So he's waived his right to challenge, the executive branch's right to challenge this.
Signing the bill and even bragging about it being his idea, the Trump administration has probably waived its right to argue now that Congress has violated its executive powers. And in its letter, the DOJ even concedes that Congress has the authority to override privilege. The agency states that, quote, privileges should not be held to have been abrogated or limited unless Congress has at least used clear statutory language, which indicates that if Congress uses clear language, it can abrogate or limit those privileges. And again, it's hard to imagine how Congress could have been any clearer here. These documents have to be disclosed, no matter how high the Dow stock index is.
The Dow right now is over. The Dow is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing. You're a great stock trader, as I hear, Raskin. The Dow is over 50,000 right now.
But what happens if the DOJ
wasn't even Raskin?
Just ignores the Supreme Court precedent and the congressional mandate to produce the documents that they're withholding?
The Dow.
Well, Congress can start by
the Dow is over
the Vaughn Index in FOIA litigation or privilege log in ordinary civil litigation. In FOIA cases and other civil cases, if the government wants to withhold records, it has to produce a document that describes what records are being withheld and what exemption justifies the withholding. The Vaughn Index or privilege log has to be sufficiently descriptive and detailed to allow the plaintiff and the judge to evaluate whether the government is wrongly withholding documents. And there's nothing stopping Congress from demanding a Vaughn Index or something similar. And I'd argue that the EFTA already requires that privilege log. The act states that, quote, all redactions must be accompanied by a written justification published in the Federal Register and submitted to Congress. The EFTA also directs the DOJ to submit to Congress a report listing, quote, all categories of records released and withheld, a summary of redactions made, including legal basis, and that sounds a lot like a Vaughn Index. But of course, the DOJ is probably going to argue that the paltry one-paragraph explanation in its Valentine's Day letter is enough. Now, we've read through it and the citations, so you don't have to, and the explanation given in this text is quite literally just trust me, bro, in basically fancier language. And Congress should not accept that because the EFTA is clear, and this one paragraph justification would never pass muster under FOIA or civil litigation. And another path is what Congress did in the Lynch case that we talked about earlier. There, a lawsuit was brought by the congressional committee to force the executive branch to disclose after the DOJ refused to comply with a congressional subpoena about Operation Fast and Furious. And Congress took the Attorney General to court, where Judge Berman Jackson ordered the agency to cough up a portion of the documents that Congress had demanded. And it's likely, though not guaranteed, that Congress could file a similar lawsuit now if the DOJ continues to hide these documents. And of course, if Congress found willpower, it could always use its power of the purse to exert leverage over the executive branch through an appropriations process. But also remind Congress that they've always had the knives out option. Even though they've historically been reluctant to use it, Congress can subpoena the Department of Justice and demand the unredacted records exactly as the law stipulates. And then if the DOJ disregards that subpoena, it can hold them in contempt of Congress. And if you see this guy, that's House Sergeant of Arms William McFarland. His job is to haul people off to jail when they've been held in contempt of Congress. But given the Attorney General's track record in congressional hearings, I'm sure she'll have a perfectly reasonable explanation.
You can let her filibuster all day long, but not on our watch. Not on our time. No way. And I told you about that, Attorney General, before you started.
You don't tell me.
Yeah, I did tell you because we saw what you did in the Senate.
You're a lawyer. You're not even a lawyer.
Committee will be in order.
Now, all this highlights why it's so important to get a great lawyer when you're dealing with your own case. Now, after I started the channel, every week I'd get hundreds of comments and emails from viewers who are dealing with legal problems. And they'd ask, can you help me find a lawyer? How do I know if this attorney is any good? And there's a...
Call the Eagle team. This is the last article I'll probably read. You get out of here. New Mexico reopens its investigation into allegations at Epstein's former Zorro Ranch. That's the New Mexico ranch he owns. New Mexico's Attorney General has reopened the investigation into allegations of illegal activity at Jeffrey Epstein's former Zorro Ranch. Attorney General Raul Torres' office made the announcement Thursday, saying that the decision was made after reviewing the information in the so-called Epstein files recently released by the U.S. Department of Justice. Although New Mexico's initial case was closed in 2019 at the request of federal prosecutors in New York, the state prosecutors say now that revelations outlined in the previously sealed FBI files warrant further examination. The New Mexico Department of Justice and special agents and prosecutors at the agency will be seeking immediate access to complete and unredacted federal case file and intend to work with other law enforcement partners as well as a new Truth Commission established by state lawmakers to look into activities at the ranch. As with any potential criminal matter, we will follow the facts wherever they lead, carefully evaluate jurisdictional considerations, and take appropriate investigative action, including the collection and preservation of any relevant evidence that remains available, the New Mexico Department of Justice said in a statement. While Epstein never faced any charges in New Mexico, state prosecutors confirmed in 2019 that they had interviewed possible victims who visited the ranch south of Santa Fe. They never elaborated on how many accusers were interviewed or what they say took place at the ranch. The New Mexico Department of Justice did not immediately respond to emailed questions about why state prosecutors were requested to close the investigation in 2019 or whether there were specific allegations detailed within the recent filings that were released that prompted the reopening of the investigation. Reuters news agency reported that the state's Department of Justice is looking into an unverified allegation from a 2019 email in the Epstein files that claimed the bodies of 2 foreign girls were buried outside the property. A spokesperson told Reuters that the department has requested an unredacted copy of the email from the U.S. Department of Justice. To know that somebody reported possible bodies being buried in this property is horrifying and must be brought to justice immediately. New Mexico State Rep Andrea Romero told CBS News. On Tuesday, New Mexico's Truth Commission had its first meeting. The bipartisan 4-member panel of the State House of Representatives is charged with investigating allegations that the ranch may have facilitated sexual abuse and sex trafficking. New Mexico lawmakers said they want to know why Epstein was not registered as a sex offender there after pleading guilty in 2018 to soliciting prostitution from an underage girl and whether there was a corruption among public officials. Epstein purchased a sprawling Zorro Ranch in Mexico in 1993 from former Democratic Governor Bruce King and built a hilltop mansion nearby. Nearby was a private airstrip with a hangar and a helipad. The property also included a ranch office, a firehouse, and a 7-bay heated garage. The property was sold to Epstein Estate in 2023 with proceeds was sold by Epstein's Estate with proceeds going to creditors to the family of Don Huffines, a Republican running for state comptroller in Texas. In a social media post, Huffines said the property has been renamed San Rafael Ranch after a saint associated with healing and that his family plans to operate a Christian retreat there. A spokesperson for Huffines has said that the owners have never been approached by local, state, or federal law enforcement requesting access to the ranch, and if they do, full cooperation will be granted. There are thousands of references to the ranch in the documents released by federal authorities. Former New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson, a Democrat, was among the guests to have visited the ranch when Epstein owned it. Following one of the early investigations in the disgraced financier, Richardson donated $50,000 in 2006 gubernatorial campaign contributions from Epstein to charity. Richardson, who died at 75 in 2023, also appeared in the flight log as he traveled in 2011. Epstein's helicopter from the British Virgin Islands to U.S. Virgin Islands. Brian Condit, Richardson's chief of staff, was also listed as a passenger and told CBS News last year that they did not visit the private property of Epstein owned there. New Mexico Land Commissioner Stephanie Garcia Richard in 2019 canceled grazing leases held by the ranch after her office was denied access to inspect the nearly 2 square miles of leased state land. Yeah, seems like they're opening the investigation again. So, into the New Mexico, that's the Zorro Ranch, his New Mexico property, which is mentioned a bunch in the fucking files. But other than that, I guess that's it, guys. Not a whole lot more Epstein stuff. I guess the biggest thing was fucking Prince Charles being arrested, but his shit is on leaking classified information. It has nothing to do with kids or women or girls, or it's leaking classified information so that Epstein could invest better, basically, or share or sell the information or use it for whatever capacity he had. Yeah. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for being here. Thanks for hanging out with me. Been kind of a slow night, but that's all right. We'll see you about the next one. I'll be back tomorrow, probably. Go get some rest. Thank you all for being here. Thanks for hanging out with me. Support the show if you want to while we're off air. You can use this link, Just Quick Tools, where you can donate to the show. Leave a message. I'll thank you while I'm live on air. You guys have a good night. We'll see everybody on the next one. Love you, Bart. That's right, Michaela Robertson.
Douchebag happens to see this.
Perfect timing.
You don't have the forking balls to call out the people on this planet by name and tell them exactly who they are and tell them the rest of the world who they are. You don't have the forking balls. You don't have the balls.
Okay, Scott. Here we go. I think I started some shit.
I heard that Hassan and who was it that were debating? Hassan and what's his name? I can never think of his name. Mockler, Adam Mockler. Thank you. I'll probably go watch that.
And they say that I'm a lunatic. Well, listen, bitch, I came equipped with a quick wit and a 6th sense for the stupid shit. Where my true believer? Y'all need Jesus. Praise the Lord, head to the extreme. All these false fucking prophets who profit off of gossip. Worshipping drums, cocking, begging for a throat deposit. Swinging fucking meat hammers like fool in a thong. He's strapped to the shaft, eating his chest like.
Thanks, Fellrunner.
Starving for attention, I'ma make your gut burst. I'll be your huckleberry, I can quench that thirst. Baby eating lizard people, alien sex. What's next? Trump in a dress, fucking Flynn on his desk. A retard in a vest, climbing up 5G towers. Cause you told him if he did, he'd get fucking superpowers. Here we go, I think I started some shit. Piss him off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in the bets, you know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen none yet. Here we go, I think I started some shit. Piss him off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in the bets, you know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen none yet. I used to find clues too when I was high on shrooms. I found myself a tunnel that led to Jason Q's bedroom. Open his closet, I found some of his meat rockets. I strapped it to my shoes and then I flew through the roof. I found myself
Have a good night, guys.
strapped to an F-16. High on amphetamine with Trump in between. Put on a light coat of